Welcome to Triple Zeros. I'm your host, Josh Buckalter. Follow me on Twitter at JoshGBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports. The website is clockersports.com, and the email address is clockersports@gmail.com. You know what it is, man. We got to get right into it. A week full of NFL action. We got some big teams on bye week, but still some decent games to watch. Not a great slate by any stretch, but a slew of good games. And then you have some trades happening. The deadline is this coming Tuesday. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there with some of the bigger names around the league as well. And then, of course, we have to talk about some coaches on the hot seat. But we'll get to that in the course of talking about those games that are coming up in the Week 8 preview. Of course, though, we got to start everything. We also going to finish touch on some NBA hires and some other rumors that are circulating that could actually affect the team very close to my heart. So we got a lot to get into. We got to start off talking about tonight's game against the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers. Atlanta ended up getting this game 25-17, and honestly, they earned it. So at one point, Teddy Bridgewater took a pretty nasty hit from Charles Harris of the Falcons and had to leave the game. His neck bent, all kinds of crazy. It was a targeting hit. He was ejected. Harris was. Broadcast, Aikman said that he was surprised that he was ejected. I don't know how you could be surprised that he was ejected. That was not a good look for him by any stretch of the imagination. Harris, that is. And so you have Bridgewater out for a few plays, and maybe that's what killed it for him, not being able to come back ultimately. But they had a chance. They had a few chances down late, and then in the end, Bridgewater threw an interception. But the Panthers were rolling early on in this game, and then the Falcons found some of that pass rush that they kind of displayed against the Bears a few weeks ago, and really got after them and everything. And then when P.J. Walker came in, just did not look good at all. So at one point, Bridgewater was on the sideline, questionable. You could see him warming up, but when play started, he was back just standing with his ball cap on, and then he came in after Walker came in, threw a ball that was about 5 yards away from the intended receiver. So maybe look for the Panthers to upgrade that backup situation, because they might not like that. I don't know how they're going to remedy that, because the only way to simulate game action is game action, and you're not going to get that in practice. So, but it didn't look good with Walker back there. AAF star PJ Walker, by the way. So yeah, you gotta be on the lookout to see exactly what's going to happen going forward with Atlanta, because coming into this game, there's a lot of rumors of trades happening. Julio Jones, Matt Ryan being vocal, saying that they didn't want to be traded, they wanted to remain in Atlanta. This team's going to get broken up. I don't see any way that you could justify this payroll when you're so clearly far behind the rest of the division. I mean, you expect them to compete better, but there's just a lot of injuries year in and year out. And then the offense doesn't necessarily perform up to task. And I guess if there is one thing that you could say, if you have to rebuild it, you can save some money by, I guess, not ignoring, but paying less attention to the offense, because there should be a better return on that investment going forward. We'll see what happens with the running back situation. Todd Gurley didn't get very much playing time early on. He got more as the game went on, but they did use a lot of Brian Hill and Katra Allison. So look out maybe too for Gurley to be one of those guys moved at the deadline here to a team that's actually in contention. Maybe Seattle. With all their injuries that they got going on at running back, I can't imagine the Rams would make a deal. They got a couple of young guys there who are pretty good. So Buffalo's a team that were rumored to be in the hunt for Le'Veon Bell and ended up missing out because he wound up going to Kansas City. So be on the lookout for that too. Maybe Gurley ends up somewhere else in the very near future. But yeah, it was a game that allowed Atlanta to save some pride for the season. And Carolina now has to face some questions of how good are they really. Their early season success has kind of faded, really since that loss to the Bears, and maybe that was what it took, but they had been up and down up to that point too, so I guess it's not really fair to say. But either way it goes, you're now looking at a team that's kind of having a bit of a slide, and again, maybe that stretch where Bridgewater was on the sideline, I think it was like a series and a half, maybe even a series and 2 or 3 plays, something like that. When they brought him back in, it was kind of too late anyway. I don't know why he brought him in mid-series. You just kind of wonder, maybe they're a few pieces away, definitely on the defensive side, but the offense too, and they clearly miss Christian McCaffrey, who they should have back next week. He was close to returning this week, but they ultimately did not activate him, but he should be returning next week. So maybe then they can get back to their winning ways and kind of find that early season magic that they had, and really they kind of experienced with Mike Davis here a few times the past couple of weeks. It just wasn't clicking Thursday night. You could just see it. Bridgewater was kind of off most of the game. This is before he even took the hit, and so Atlanta sneaks out with one. Rest of the Week 8 slate is actually pretty decent. So you got the Vikings taking on the Packers. This is the second game. Vikings ended up getting blown out last time. This time they're in Lambeau, or at Lambeau, excuse me. So who knows what happens? Could this be the end of Mike Zimmer? I know I've been talking about this for a few weeks now, and he keeps finding ways to survive. But you just wonder, again, can ownership stand another losing season with how all that's going on? Granted, they turned over their entire secondary voluntarily, but the offense has underperformed. There's been injuries, but yet and still it's been less than ideal, or the results haven't been there. You just haven't seen it. And granted, you had the big injury on defense with Daniil Hunter hurting his neck, so that resulted in them ultimately deciding to trade away Yannick Ngakoue to the Ravens. But that in and of itself is kind of an odd situation. The management we talked about said they would still compete, but you just have to wonder how many more of these losses can they take. And again, I fully expect them to get blown out once again. The door is blown off up there at Lambeau this weekend. The next game, Titans and the Bengals. This one, Tennessee has this has Tennessee written all over. Now they're the road team, but they get Derrick Henry a chance to go up against a very, very squishy Bengals run defense. Really squishy Bengals defense, but the run defense is like inviting you to just go ahead and hand the ball off 40 some odd times a game. So that's the big question here is, can Joe Burrow pull the upset? Because Tennessee's defense has proven to be a little bit vulnerable over the past couple of weeks. So if he can get himself into a groove that we've seen him get into the past few weeks, then he has the weapons around him. Now we'll see if Joe Mixon ultimately plays, but he still has Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and A.J. Green out there wide receiver, and Gio Bernard is not a slouch. So there's a chance that he could pull it off. I don't see it happening, but if he could somehow find a way to turn this into a shootout and have it be him versus Ryan Tannehill, then I could see them maybe pulling the ultimate of upset so far this season, I think. Right? To go from first pick to beating a team like the Titans, that would be huge. Because it definitely won't be the next team here. The New York Jets taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Before I get to this, will this be the end of Adam Gase? They're losing this game, right? And you should see the spread on this. They're getting like 19 points or something like that. It's ridiculous. Will this be the end of Adam Gase? I know. See, it's often weird with these guys. It's kind of just like with the Packers-Vikings game. With all that's going on around it, does that affect the coach? In this sense, no one gets the Chiefs, and you don't have a chance anyway. Does that impact management's decision-making? It shouldn't, but it has shown in the past that that's not necessarily how they end up working it. And we could see this ultimately drag on for much longer than it should have. It's already extended past its expiration date, but it can go a lot further than this if they decided to keep it so. So that's something to keep an eye on. I don't know. Adam Gase is just, I've often marveled at how he was able to land the job so immediately, so soon after what happened down there in Miami, and how that all unraveled and how they're doing now in comparison. But obviously they didn't know that when he was hired in New York. Point being, it just was surprising, and now to see it unravel in New York as well is kind of like, yeah. And it's even funnier when you realize that a lot of his success is built up off of what he did with one Peyton Manning. So, you're probably at a crossroads here with one Adam Gase, but we'll see if this is the week that does it, and we'll see how brutal of a beatdown the Chiefs put on them after struggling kind of the past few weeks to really make things look great. They kind of put a whooping on Buffalo last week, but still, it hasn't been a smooth few weeks for them. They haven't looked like the Chiefs of old, a year ago. So just look out for that, because the Jets are prime for the picking, man. This could get ugly really fast, really early, and you could see backups by mid-third quarter. I'm not even being facetious in any sense or fashion here. This could be bad. This could be one where you're wondering, when do they call mercy? So, that's one. But Adam Gase, man. Also, this could be a chance for Eric Bieniemy to really flash his play calling chops and solidify his case as a head coaching candidate. Prior to him, you had a few guys, Doug Peterson and then Matt Nagy, who I think actually is now screwing that up for guys coming out of Andy Reid's system. or his coaching tree, but Bieniemy could have a chance to reinstill some confidence in that group because, like I said, Nagy's kind of dropping the ball with it lately. We'll see what happens ultimately, but it doesn't seem to be great right now, and it's not as surprising as maybe we are kind of acting as it is right now. But I'll get to that in a moment. Next game, Colts at the Lions. This is Rivers versus Stafford in my mind, and what's ultimately going to decide is the fact that the Colts have a better defense, and they should be getting some guys back from injury too, so that'll help because they haven't looked like themselves of late. But they started off really hot. Rivers kind of went through a slump there, and then he kind of caught fire the last couple of weeks himself, and so maybe that carries over. I would love to see these two kind of go at it in a duel here and just kind of, torch both defenses. Matt Stafford is talented enough to torch this Colts defense. Now we'll see how the offensive lines hold up, or the offensive line of the Lions holds up against that Colts defensive line, and vice versa, really, because the Lions just traded for Everson Griffin from Dallas Cowboys, so that's a new addition to that pass rush, and I think a smart move. The only guy they had there was Trey Flowers, and he's solid, but he's not a world beater, so he definitely needs a partner in crime to go up there and terrorize opposing quarterbacks, and maybe that starts, or that won't start this week. I think Griffin won't be able to join until next week, so he'll make his debut against the Vikings. But Stafford's talented enough to complete passes and drive the ball, work the ball down the field against this Colts defense, no matter how good they have been. And Rivers he's easily good enough to do this against the Lions, as long as neither one of these guys falls into their bad habits of making poor decisions and throwing the ball into questionable coverage. You've seen both, and now Stafford recently had that comeback drive against the Falcons after Gurley scored that touchdown last week, so he's riding high right now. But like I said, you've seen the Colts have that kind of a lull. They're kind of bouncing back. The Lions are making moves like they're thinking that they could possibly still make the playoffs. This could end up being one of the more entertaining games I don't think anybody's really talking about, because you don't really think about the Lions as exciting, and because the Colts went through that slump. And it's the Colts. Nobody really talks about the Colts like that unless you're like a really into the NFL. You don't really hear much about them nationally, I don't think. So, especially since Andrew Luck is gone. And there's no Peyton Manning, obviously, and the Brady watch is over. Rivers, man. Glad to see him bounce back last week, but I think ultimately this one might be the Lions. The Colts are coming in as the favorites here. But I think people underestimate the Lions, especially at home. Matt Stafford is not a bad quarterback. He does make the boneheaded play, and that'll ultimately be what I think decides this game. But I think if you're asking me which one I think is more prone to do it, I would definitely say it's Rivers who's more prone to throw that dummy pass, especially being on the road. So, but Rivers has the added benefit of a better defense and a much better running game. So that could be the other X factor there is Jonathan Taylor being able to just take the ball and run it right down, right in the Lions' faces. So we'll see what happens there. But that's Rivers Stafford. That's a good game. That's a really good game. A good matchup, rather. Let me say it that way. Then you got the Raiders and the Browns. This one, same difference, man. This is two teams that want to get off the bus and run the ball right at you, and theoretically would have better defenses. They've invested in the defense. They're not performing up to that point, but like I said, it's not for lack of trying. They've thrown money, draft picks. Cleveland has a solid run defense. The pass defense is horrendous. The Raiders just have a bad defense. And so we'll see. I think this could turn into a David Carr versus Baker Mayfield type of deal. Derek Carr. I always call him David. Derek Carr versus Baker Mayfield type of deal. Mayfield obviously will be without Odell Beckham Jr. out for the year with the torn ACL. But this kind of system, I think, works for guys like him who don't need that guy that they're going to lock in on, because he has a tendency to lock in on guys and try to force passes to him. I think something with what Bill O'Brien thought he was seeing with Deshaun Watson, but I think the connection there was different. In Baker's case, we saw, maybe it's not going to be permanent, but we saw when Odell went out that he went on to throw 5 touchdowns, and they came back and won that game against the Bengals. So, it'll be interesting to see. Again, just another good matchup of two teams that I think are very similar in how they want to approach the game. and really how the results that they're getting out of it, to be honest with you, because like I said, neither defense is performing up to the level of the investment that has been made into them. So that's another one that probably should get more pub. It might be low scoring, but it could definitely turn into a matchup of these two quarterbacks just kind of throwing the ball around the yard. I doubt it, though. I think we'll see it much more. I think it's much more likely we see it close to the vest game that moves pretty quickly because they keep the ball short passes and on the ground. And the next one, this one I have to ask the schedule makers. Steelers at the Ravens. How the hell is this not flexed into the prime time schedule? And I'll talk about why. And just keep this feather, keep the ashes here, okay? Because I'm starting to wonder what they're doing with these primetime games, what they're feeding us. It has not been great, and this one would have been a really nice one, especially this week with, like I said, a lot of teams on bye. So, but we didn't get it. We definitely didn't get it. The Thursday night's game was good. It was a good game, but this ain't. I don't know how this one. Steelers just can't. The Titans didn't get the Steelers Titans in primetime last week. They flexed Seahawks Cardinals, which actually ended up being a good game. You just want to see. I just want to see the Steelers play in primetime because I think that's what the NFL needs to see right now. That's my dark horse pick to make the Super Bowl and win it this year is the Steelers. So, and I think the Ravens, we kind of know what their cap is, especially as currently constructed with, it seems even less offensive firepower than before, even though it's the same guys. They're just, you're getting diminishing returns from that running game. I heard a stat today that they've scored in all 4 quarters, but they still aren't satisfied with their production. They're nowhere near where they need to be any more successful than they have been, and probably they're on pace to be much less successful than they've been in recent years. So, yeah, I'm getting sidetracked though. The Steelers-Ravens game needs to be in prime time. I don't know how the schedule makers keep doing this to us and not giving us the games that we want. And when you hear what we have, you'll be like, yeah, what the hell? How did not one of them? Sunday night nor Monday night. Yeah. Not a good look. But other storylines. Lamar Jackson and this ground game, Mark Ingram might not play. And I wonder if maybe that ends up actually helping this team because they could use a spark there. He's been one of my favorite backs in the league for quite some time, especially when Alvin Kamara was a rookie, and seeing how supportive he was as a guy who clearly was on track to take his position and ultimately did so. The level of teammate that he was, I thought, was just great to see publicly. Right, you hear about it all the time, but to see it so publicly, and he was very loud about it. That was great. Maybe it's just that time for him to be phased out of the offensive system. Gus Edwards is still there. They invested in J.K. Dobbins this offseason in the draft. So maybe this could be a chance for them to test that out. And then on the Steelers side, how do they work all these weapons in? You got Juju. You got Deontay Johnson. And then you just found out about Chase Claypool. Eric Ebron's still there. You still got the running game of James Conner. James Washington's lurking around there somewhere as well. And my prediction for the Steelers to be to make it to reach and win the Super Bowl was before Claypool had emerged. So, and then you got the defenses. Both of these defenses are just stellar. Like I said earlier, the Ravens just added Yannick Ngakoue to pair with Matthew Judon on the outside, go along with Derek Wolfe and Calais Campbell down the line, Brandon Williams in the middle. Dude, it's ferocious. It is ferocious. And then you already know about the Steelers, T.J. Watt now, Bud Dupree, Stephon Tua, Cam Hayes. Like, dude, it's nasty. Now, I'm not sure if Devin Bush will be playing in this game, but they could use him because, like I said, I could see the Ravens trying to get a little bit of a spark out of maybe not having Ingram back there to I don't want to say slow things down, but essentially slow things down. So that one, it just should have been in prime time. Bottom line, point blank period. You can't convince me otherwise that this game should not have been in prime time. I don't know how this happens. Next game, Patriots Bills. This one too, and then maybe not now. Maybe in the preseason. Maybe earlier on in the year would have been better. But Patriots Bills. Could this be Cam's last stand? Cam Newton played so awful past few games. He's thrown 5 of his 7 picks on the year, 0 touchdowns in the past 2 weeks. This after coming back from COVID has people wondering if he's still suffering from lingering effects. He and his coach have both said no. Cam has publicly acknowledged that he's played awful and that he can't continue to do so. Otherwise, he can expect to remain on the sidelines, much like he was in the past game when he was pulled in favor of Jarrett Stidham. He said that he's learned that in this city that losing is unacceptable, and that locker room is unacceptable, and he's got to play better. Otherwise, like I said, he'll suffer the consequences. And listen, for all of the criticism of Cam and not looking great, can we not act like there's even less now than there was when Tom Brady was there? And it's the same. It's really the same, but I mean, it hasn't been improved upon at all. And when it's less, it's because Julian Edelman is a year older. Sony Michel has been less healthy this year. James White has been in and out of the lineup this year because of personal reasons. May his family rest. His father, I believe his mother is still in the hospital. I'm not sure what his update with James White's mother. Anyway, James White, though, had missed a couple of games as well. And the defense is just, they lost like half the defense. So I'm not on the same level of people who are here to, or I'm on the same level of people who have been destroying Cam for not looking great in the system that had Tom Brady looking mediocre last year and ended up ultimately allowing him to vacate to Tampa Bay. It's the same thing. This is the double standard I think in full effect, and maybe that's something that I'll write about for Clocker Sports, is that, you know, while this may be Cam's last name because he's playing awful, I'm not sure how great we expected him to be given what they've provided with. I've been expecting him to make a move for another receiver for quite some time. That has not happened. Maybe it does now with Edelman having undergone knee surgery and set to miss some time indefinitely because of the status of the team sitting now, I believe, at 2-4. If you bench Cam, this could be it for him. He has looked slower this year, but we were told that he was going to be able to throw better. He's regressed some. Like I said, the past few weeks has been really bad, especially. I don't know what we thought we were going to see from this team long term, especially because he wasn't supposed to be running like that. You know what I mean? So to say that, oh, well, he's not running the same anymore, that's probably the point. And I don't think that's it. I honestly think that you can't expect to put minimal talent around the guy and for him to elevate, especially at the level as he wants it, because he can't run like he used to. So, next up, Rams at Dolphins. You know what? It's Tua time. We're not going to talk about the Rams. They can, whatever. Monday Night Football happened last week, whatever. Destroyed the Bears, made them look really, really, really bad, and opened up a can of worms about the head coach and really the entire franchise and how they're doing things over there. But the big story in this game is going to be that it's Tua time. Tua Tagovailoa will be making his first NFL start, being benched for the 3-3 Dolphins in favor of, or I'm sorry, he's being started in favor of. That's not right at all. He's being started over Ryan Fitzpatrick, who had gotten him, like I said, 3-3. But you know how this story ends. There's no sense in waiting. If you think Tua's ready, which they reportedly do, then you get him in the game to find out what you have, because, as I heard it put from, I believe, Ryan Clark, or maybe it was Dominique Foxworth, that you could be in position to pick a top quarterback yet again. So you have to find out right now if Tua's ready. And the team has got talent. Why not find out? They've been a much better team than I think anybody thought they would be. So, yeah, this is a good time to find out and see what you have. And that sucks for Fitzpatrick, who says he's wondered if this will be his last time starting. But I think that he'll get another shot if he wants it next year. But ultimately, this is the right move for the franchise. You just have to do what you have to do. Speaking of young quarterbacks, you'll see a duel of two that I actually really like in Justin Herbert and Drew Lock. Chargers taking on the Broncos in Denver. Herbert's been really, really good. He's been a solid guy in his first few starts. Just got his first win last week against the Jaguars. Finally and decisively, might I add. After being a victim of some dumb luck, again, some of his own doing, but others just happenstance. And on the Broncos, Drew Lock has come back from injury and looked rather rough. Now, you kind of would expect that because, again, he missed a few weeks with the arm injury, so that's not necessarily a surprise. It's still disappointing to see a guy who I like because of the Jeezy video. I'm not even going to lie. The Young Jeezy video with him going hard on the sidelines was what made me become a fan of his, and so I'd like to see him do well. Maybe this is the game that he snaps out of it, and the two of these guys actually go head-to-head and show that the the distant future, because Patrick Mahomes right now is the present and the future. But these guys are there. I don't want to say they're next because they'll be around with Mahomes, but they're going to be good. That division is going to be in good hands for quite some time now, especially if Derek Carr decides to stay or ends up staying with the Vegas Raiders. Saints taking on the Bears in Soldier Field. The Bears have not beaten the Saints since 2008. That's about as much as you need to know, because this team is on the verge of suffering back-to-back losses for the first time this season. They are 5-2. They have lost to the two best head coaches that they faced. They've lost to the two best offensive and defensive line combinations that they faced, and they're about to face their third, and that could be problems. And if they lose this week to a team that won't, or that could get Michael Thomas back because he returned to practice on Thursday, isn't that great? Right on time, right? Then there's a problem. And especially because Michael Thomas is, listen, all jokes aside, he's really good at running the slant route, and Drew Brees is really good at hitting them. And with Kyle Fuller and Jalen Johnson having played a lot of off coverage this year, that could be a problem, stopping them. You got that, and then you couple that with Alvin Kamara and Jared Cook being the other two focal points of this offense, and the Bears could be in for a very, very long day. Oh, it gets worse. They have Derrick Henry up next, and they also have a problem with giving up gashing run plays at the wrong time, and he's a big dude, doesn't go down on first contact. They've had trouble tackling too, so it's about to get ugly for the Bears if they don't figure out a way to pull this game off. So that's, that's what that is, man. It's rough right now, and I think this is a pivotal point in the season for them, because if they don't get it going here, they come out of the bye week. They go in after playing Minnesota, but they come out and face Green Bay twice still. Another game against Minnesota and another game against Detroit. It's not going to get much easier. Like I just told you, Detroit's thinking about obviously trying to make a push for the postseason still, sitting there at 3-3 when they're making the trade for Everson Griffin. So, and then the Saints. If they get Michael Thomas back, they are still able to regain some footing in the division, with Carolina dropping the ball here thanks to Atlanta. And they're getting Michael Thomas back right on time. If they can find their stride, that'd be great for them too. So, and Sean Payton has just loved sticking it to the Bears for years. We saw what they did with Bridgewater last year. And like I said, they haven't beaten him since 2008. So don't see it happening again this week. I hope that I'm wrong about it, but that's one that's already expecting it to be a pretty sizable margin in defeat, because the offense just doesn't have the steam to stay with them. They can't score. Bears offense just can't score, and I don't see it starting this week. 49ers will be taking on the Seahawks. This game is pivotal for the conference. The Seahawks started off really, really hot, suffered their first loss last week against the Arizona Cardinals when Russell Wilson threw that pick in overtime. Really looked bad. Looked kind of sloppy in that game. And the San Francisco 49ers have been beat up. Lost Nick Bosa, lost Solomon Thomas, lost Richard Sherman, lost guys to COVID. Injuries on the offensive side. Running backs have been up and down. They're out without Mostert right now. Tevin Coleman might be coming back. They just lost Jeff Wilson. Deebo Samuel's out. Jimmy Garoppolo had missed time. George Kittle has missed time. And yet, they have a winning record. Their defense has shown flashes of still being dominant. And if they win against the Seahawks here, they have a chance at winning the division again. And Seattle is still showing all the flaws. For all the people who want to see, wanted to let Russ cook and are happy that he is, I'm happy that he is, and want him to win the MVP. The fact of the matter is they still haven't built enough of a team around him to support that happening, for them to be a real dominant force, and for really the ultimate goal to win a Super Bowl. There's no defense. They can stop the run, but they get passed on like bad. And offensively, that line is trash. Now, maybe they get Josh Gordon back here and they get some more help with the receiving core. But it's good, but it's not great. He definitely elevates it. So, I as much as I like seeing Russ and them do what they do, especially with no fans now there in Seattle, I could see the 49ers stealing this game. And really putting some fear into people as to what they could really do. They can still run the ball, and they still play really good defense. I could see it. Russ was leading the MVP race for a while. He slid back to the pack now, and I think you might even see Kyler Murray up there, who's on bye this week. He's back in the mix. He's on pace for 4,000 plus yards and 1,000 rushing yards. Like it's getting kind of hectic in that MVP race. We'll see what happens this weekend with this game, but this is a big game for that division. This is huge for Arizona, who's out right now on the bye. This is big, and the Rams, who should coast to a win, facing a rookie quarterback for the first, making his debut. Cowboys and Eagles is the Sunday night game. And now this is the first one that had me saying, wait a minute, what the hell are they doing with the scheduling? First of all, we've gotten both of these teams in the past couple of weeks in prime time. And I just don't know why. For what? Ben DiNucci will be making his debut because Andy Dalton has not progressed through the concussion protocol. Ben DiNucci. Who? Ben DiNucci. I don't even know. Why? For what? Nobody. Look, the Eagles should win this game handily. This is in Philadelphia. They are still not completely healthy either, but they are getting guys back, and Dallas still can't stop anybody. They still can't stop me if I ran out there right now. So, I just don't know why this is the game that's on primetime. I don't know why this had to be where are the flex people? I don't get it. I don't get it. Monday Night Football, Bucks at Giants. Why? I get it. You want to get Tom Brady and them on TV as much as possible, but you could have pushed this next week. I don't know who they play next week, but you'll have Antonio Brown playing next week. He won't be there this week. Why against the Giants? For what? I don't understand. I don't think I've ever been as frustrated as I have by a primetime schedule as I have by this one, because it just doesn't make any sense. Like, there's so many things that they could have done. Like I said, you could have had Steelers, Ravens. Next week you have Saints, Bucks. Why? What? That's gonna be in prime time. That'll be in prime time. So okay, you did that right. But you give me Bucks, Giants? Come on, man. You could have given me. Honestly, I would have taken 49ers, Seahawks over Bucks, Giants. I would have taken Chargers, Broncos because of the young quarterbacks. Bucks, Giants? That's awful. Not a fan. Switching gears over to the NBA. Steven Silas has been hired as the Rockets head coach. He is the son of former player and coach Paul Silas. He was Dallas Mavericks assistant, and he has coached guards Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, and Kemba Walker. But maybe even more impressive than his personal accomplishments or his personal resume is the staff they're trying to put around him. They are reportedly trying to bring John Lucas in. They are trying to bring in Nate McMillan. They're trying to bring in Jeff Hornacek. That is one hell of a staff if that's what they ultimately end up being able to pull off. I'm not sure if they will, but if they can, I don't. Oh my gosh, that'll be quite the feat, because honestly, what you want around a young coach is a bunch of other coaches who know what the hell they're doing. And those are three very accomplished coaches. There's no other way to slice it. So good luck. I'm happy for Steven Silas. Sounds like they're going to still try to work with the Harden and Russell Westbrook thing. Good for them. Good for him, because he doesn't have to struggle coming in trying to build a team. He's got something to work with already. And they have a plan to build around him. This is the first hire for the new general manager after Daryl Morey stepped down. He actually is in advanced discussions with the Philadelphia 76ers to take over their general manager job. You remember, he's the one who had the famous Hong Kong tweets that sent shockwaves throughout the NBA and really the political world as well, as both sides tried to latch on for different reasons, and either support or defiance of his statement. So, good for the Rockets. They're making moves. Good for the Sixers. It's a weird pairing, though, with Morey and Doc. But I guess Doc, who's really just a coach of superstars, and Morey, who is a guy who just loves to make trades and do some off-the-wall things. I think that means you'll see Ben and Joel stay around, and you'll probably see some shuffling of the other pieces. I'll be intrigued as to what they could bring in and what they do, and if they keep it just the way it is and try to figure it out. But I don't think you bring in a Daryl Morey to keep things, keep the status quo. Sounds to me like there's going to be some changes up there in Philly. We'll see. I'm sorry, and I called him Doc. Glenn. I'm not going to get used to that. It's going to be like the Sears Tower. It's still the Sears Tower. There's no, it's Willis Tower. It's the Sears Tower. Quit playing. It's Doc Rivers. Quit playing. You don't get to tell me what your name is. Psst. 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 In rumors of off-season moves and interest peaking, the Bucks are reportedly eyeing DeMar DeRozan. Now, I'm not sure if this is in replacement of Chris Middleton, in addition to Chris Middleton. However this works, if it's in addition to, I don't know where the money's coming from. Moving Eric Bledsoe, because that's the only way I think you're freeing up enough cap space to go and get a young DeMar DeRozan. But him back in the East, they would have a chance to make some real noise. It's another wing, a playmaker on the wing there. Not really great defender, not a great outside shooter. So again, it's questionable if you're trying to replace Middleton with him. If you're trying to add him, that's cool, I guess, an interesting combination. I still wonder how you're going to make that happen and how that's going to make your team play after the fact. But I think if you're going to get rid of Eric Bledsoe, it's probably worth it to figure out an alternative, if that's what it costs you and if that ends up getting the deal done. Other news, the Hornets have reportedly shown interest in James Wiseman. That's their pick. The Hornets are set to pick number 3, and that is what just really grinds my gears. James Wiseman, as you know, has grown into the top choice for myself for my Chicago Bulls, but it sounds like they're going to miss out on him by one spot unless they can find a way to move up into the top 2. Luckily for me, rumors are they're interested in moving up into the top 2, and maybe this is why, because they know that the Hornets have interest in Wiseman, and that's ultimately where they decide to go with this. Now, alternately, they could sit where they're at and try to get a guy like LaMelo Ball, but he's reportedly the first overall pick, and I just don't see. I don't know how they're moving up to number 1. Is Minnesota taking Zach LaVine back? I doubt it. Is Golden State taking Zach back? Taking Zach for number 2 with the number 4 pick? I don't know if he fits in Golden State with their ball sharing mentality. I don't see that working out too well at all. So, hopefully this is just smoke, and they're trying to get a team to trade up with them or trade ahead of them. I don't know, but I hope that they don't take Wiseman, because I don't think LaMelo's going to last past 2, and I don't think that the Bulls will be able to. I don't know. I've been surprised all offseason by the Bulls, so let me not say what I think they will do, but a Wiseman pick by the Hornets would be very disheartening for myself. The Atlanta Hawks reportedly are shopping pick number 6, and they are trying to go for it this season to make a push for the playoffs. This is a team that's full of young talent. John Collins, obviously, Trae Young. You got Cam Reddish. You got DeAndre Hunter, Kevin Huerter. You got a lot of young guys. I would agree. It's time to go push for some veterans and see if you can make some noise in a still weakened East that's still kind of figuring out what it is. And who the top teams are and how that power structure is going to ultimately unfold. So good for them. We'll see what ultimately comes of it, but that's a valuable pick, and I'm sure that you'll find somebody interested in taking it, and maybe they even reverse course and move up and take another top talent to add to Trae Young. Who knows? Never can call it. Maybe they go up to get number 2 and get Wiseman. You never know. You never know. The Clippers reportedly are interested in Rajon Rondo. We'll close with this one. Before we hit some other one random little tidbit that was very interesting to me. The Clippers are interested in Rajon Rondo, and this is a very smart move, because what was missing for them on the floor most of the year was a point guard to get them into offensive sets and run the offense when they couldn't ISO. We saw it come back to bite them off in the playoffs, and I think ultimately that's what was their undoing. Now, you could say that, it was poor shooting by Paul George and Kawhi, but I think it was poor setup because they were setting themselves up all the time and making poor decisions at some points. Kawhi less so than Paul George, but ultimately that's what ended up being the problem. You get a guy like Rondo in, and that's great. Rondo, I'm not sure if he's going to the Clippers after just playing with the Lakers. I don't know. I don't know how his loyalty meter is now after going from Boston all those years ago now, finding his way to the Lakers. There's a bunch of teams in between, so maybe he needs to circuitously find his way back to the Clippers somehow, but that's the rumor that they are interested. We'll keep eyes on some other rumors that are happening in the NBA, and maybe even do a mock draft next episode, and try to plot out what the first round's going to look like in the draft. It's coming up not too long with the start date trying to be pushed up as well. So get those dates and everything and go into what I think is going to happen, at least in the lottery coming up here. So keep a lookout for that. Last thing I'll leave you with was Wednesday was the first day since July 22nd that there were no NFL, NBA, MLB, or NHL games played. It was an absolute snooze fest. I didn't realize how spoiled with sports we've kind of become during this entire thing, especially with the NBA having that first bubble run. NHL, if you're a big fan, I'm obviously, clearly, we lean more towards NFL and NBA around these parts. But having those games every day was a treat. And then having that bump into the MLB was great. And the MLB wrapped up the World Series. Again, congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers for their World Series championship. But yeah, it's dried up now. We're in the offseason of the NBA. The MLB just wrapped up. NHL and NFL is halfway over already. NBA is coming back really soon, so that's good. But man, it was a really depressing thought to even think about. And I remember thinking, like, oh my goodness, there's nothing happening. I have to talk to the family. That's a joke. Just a joke. That's going to do it for this episode of Triple Zeros. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at JoshyBuck. Hit up the Facebook page, Clocker Sports, the website, clockersports.com, email address, clockersports@gmail.com, and read the stuff. Last Word on Pro Football, pimpingandeasy.com, and of course, Clocker Sports, American betting experts as well. And of course, look out for the Around the Clockers Roundtable Discussion podcast as well. Until the very next time, you already know what it is, man. It's the sound of the horns.